Greetings, people of the internet. I'm Scott with Serkworks Art Labs. Welcome once again to the underground laboratory where, what do? We create robots, aliens, zombies, and other imminent threats to humanity. We also work on comics because we are in the middle of the 100 Days of Making Comics Challenge, and that's where you spend at least 30 minutes a day, every day, working on your own personal project, personal comic book project, and by the end of those 100 days, hopefully you've made some progress on your comic book and everything. And don't forget, part of the challenge is to let people know what you're doing, kind of vlog. It holds you accountable. If you do YouTube videos or you got a blog or something, a lot of people are joining in now, and there's kind of just some updates here and there. There's so many people, hard to keep track of. I tried to do that a number of times, and I don't know how successful I was. It's just kind of getting out of hand, but it's cool because there's so many people involved. And you know, some people are just doing it by themselves, and that's cool, but it really does help if you put out videos or blog about it or something, or Instagram or something, and just do those daily updates. I think that really helps. So where are we, where am I in the challenge? Let's see, we got our big pad of paper, our big fat Sharpie. We are at day 57. 57 out of 100. So we are past the halfway mark, but we still got a ways to go. So that's where we are now. We just write that down so we know where we are in the challenge so we don't lose track. And speaking of comics and where we are, should talk about my comic, Young and the Dead. This is the first issue. I've got 3 issues available. I'm working on issue 4 right now. It's a kids versus zombies story. It's like Goonies meets Night of the Living Dead. Now, like I said, I'm working on the 4th issue, so a lot of my characters have already been created and established, but it's good to kind of revisit them, and I'm constantly doing that as I'm writing and making sure my characters are true to who they are, who they're designed, and of course you want them to grow as characters as well. But I was just thinking back to when I originally created some of these characters, and I thought I'd just throw out just a few tips. I know we talked about, I think we talked about this in a previous episode, but I just was thinking, you know, if you guys are starting, because there's so many new people starting off, that it might be a good idea, because some of you guys are just coming up with the idea for your comic and everything. Some of you guys have had ideas for a while that you're starting, but some people are like, oh, what do I do, or whatever. So, and I know there's people out there that are trying to flesh out their characters and everything, and you can start a number of ways. You can start with, you know, the personality traits and what makes them who they are and everything, but a lot of times I start with just the visual design. I start doing some sketches and some things. And I think one of the important things is when you're designing your characters, if you're working with like an ensemble cast like I am, I've got a number of kids in this sort of zombie apocalypse world that are kind of our main characters. So it's good to make sure that you can differentiate them, that they're, and not just personality, because that's part of it, but on a visual basis, because when you're jumping into a story, a new story, it's always hard, at least for me when I'm reading, you got to get familiar with the characters, and those visual aspects help out a lot. If they're similar looking, then it gets difficult. So take, for instance, well, here, let me kind of give you an idea right here, and I've showed this example before, but one of the things, you may have heard this before, but one of the good ideas when you are concepting out your characters is to kind of look at them in silhouette and see if they, you know, if people can tell who they are from each other based on just their silhouette. So if you've seen, you know, if you see a silhouette of Mickey Mouse, you know who Mickey Mouse is. You know what he is just by his silhouette, or Batman, you know, with the ears and the cowl and all that. You know Batman. So you kind of want to think about that when you're designing your character. It's a helpful tip anyway. So here I've got a kind of little logo. You can see some of my main characters. That's 5 of them. There's a couple other characters that are pretty prevalent in the story, but as you can see, you can kind of tell them apart. Based on, you know, their stature or their clothing or their hairstyle. So that's something you want to consider. And let's see, what was I going to say? So take, for instance, so talk about clothing. you can, like I said, that's a way you can kind of separate them, give them different styles of clothing or body types. So for instance, think of like Fantastic Four. The Fantastic Four are pretty much all dressed the same. You know, they've got the blue, and it varies as different iterations come about, but for the most part, they've got their blue uniform with the number 4 and everything like that. And they pretty much all have that same costume. I think the things vary just a little bit. So, but you can tell them apart because their body types are so different. I mean, you got Mr. Fantastic, and if you do like a silhouette of him, his arms are all stretching all over the place. You know, the Human Torch, of course, flames coming off of him. The Thing, just this big bulky guy. You can't mistake him for the other 4. And of course, I was gonna say Mrs. Invisible, the Invisible Girl, or Invisible Woman. Is it Invisible Girl or Invisible Woman? I wonder if they like retcon that. Anyway, I always knew it as the Invisible Girl. But anyway, so if you do a silhouette of her, she can kind of like be fading away because she's invisible, or not even there. But that, you know, they do tricky things with comics, so you can kind of see that the character's there but not there. So but there's a good example of characters who have kind of the same dress, but they look quite a bit different. And like the original X-Men can kind of go along with that same idea. They all had pretty much the same uniform when they first came out. Now they're vastly different and everything. So there's different ways you can approach that, and you know, you could have characters that totally dress all different and have different body types. Now, since my comic, I'm dealing with, you know, a bunch of kids, we can do different styles. I've got, you know, for instance, my character Ox here, this girl right here, she's kind of short and stocky. Sam, our main character, is kind of tall and lanky. So different, but they're not, you know, it's not like the Thing versus like the Invisible Girl or something. It's not that vast because we're dealing with, you know, normal kind of proportions, I guess. Whereas when you're doing like a superhero book, you can kind of go crazy and everything like that. So I had to pay kind of close attention to hairstyles and just the way they dress. I've got one character's a trench coat, one character's kind of got a t-shirt, one's kind of sort of got a long sleeve shirt with a collar, one is, and when the story takes place, it takes place in the early morning, so one of the kids is just walking around in his pajamas. And it's kind of, they're just kind of wearing what they had when they woke up. So, or in some cases, the characters were kind of out all night. So anyway, so those are just some things I'm thinking about, or that I was thinking about when I came up with the characters. And I want to get more into this, you know, for the next couple episodes, I'll talk more. I think tomorrow I'll talk about personality traits, but I don't want to waste too much more time. I want to get into the actual creation of the book and where we are with that. So we are going to go right up here to the paralleloscope and see what's going on with that. Okay, wrapped up page 3. There it is. That there you go, little focus. I'm not going to show you the whole thing, but anyway, so I'm excited that this page is done because now I get to move on to page 4 and 5, which are a double page spread, so that should be pretty cool. And it gets back into basically page 4 and 5 pick up where the last issue, issue 3, left off. So usually when I tell stories, I don't like to go, like if I leave off at a certain place in one issue, I don't like to pick right up at that same point. I like to go to another scene or something like that, and then I'll kind of come back to that, just a little teaser or whatever. That's just the way I like to tell stories. I kind of switch around. Some people like a more linear story type where, you know, it's a journey and it just goes, you know, straight forward, or you might cut to different scenes. I guess like Lord of the Rings cuts to different scenes, but I like to switch back and forth and everything like that. So anyway, hopefully it's not too hard to follow. But yeah, getting excited about this next page, so I'm gonna start laying that one out. So awesome. We are back and we're ready to put to rest another day in the life of 100 Days of Making Comics, round 2 for me. So we're gonna say goodbye to day 57. We do what we always do. We crumple this up, toss it in the trash, and we look forward to day 58. I'll see you then. That is all. Hey everyone, you've seen the process. Now you can check out the story. Issues 1 through 3 of Young and the Dead are available at my website at serkworks.com. Also follow me on social media at the links listed below. Subscribe and check out some of the other videos in the series. There's much more to come.